The security camera notification jolts Marcus Thompson awake at 2:17 a.m. 25 years on the force taught him to wake instantly, mind clear, adrenaline calibrated. He reaches for his phone, tapping the security app with practiced precision. The night vision feed reveals a woman in her 20s, frantically trying his back door handle. Her movements are erratic, desperate, not a professional break-in, something else. Marcus watches, stone-faced. At 58, the retired black police officer has seen it all, or thought he had. His hand instinctively reaches for the badge that no longer hangs on his nightstand. Dispatch. This is Unit 437 responding to, he catches himself. Old habits. 5 years retired and still waking up reaching for ghosts. The woman on screen now pounds on his back door, looking frantically. Over her shoulder, is she running from something? Someone? In this quiet, predominantly white suburb where Marcus chose to retire, a black man confronting a white woman in distress at 2 a.m. carries risks no security system can mitigate. Yet something in her movements triggers the instinct that kept him alive through decades on patrol. What's about to happen next isn't just about an intruder caught on camera. Marcus whispers to himself, sliding open his nightstand drawer. It's about everything we think we know about safety, trust, and who deserves our protection. The woman's head suddenly snaps toward the camera, her eyes wide with unmistakable terror. Marcus Thompson's home sits at the end of Oak Ridge Lane, a carefully maintained colonial with a manicured lawn that matches every other house on the block. Inside tells a different story. Framed commendations line his study wall. A polished display case holds his badge, service weapon, and medals earned during 25 years with the Chicago PD. The neighborhood had seemed perfect 5 years ago, quiet, safe, far from the constant sirens and violence that consumed his professional life. The neighbors were cordial enough, nodding greetings, occasional small talk about the weather. But invitations to barbecues and block parties mysteriously stopped arriving after the first few months. He'd installed the security system within weeks of moving in. Not the standard package the real estate agent recommended, but a comprehensive network with motion sensors, 8 high-definition cameras, and immediate mobile alerts. The neighbors thought it excessive. Marcus knew better. Paranoid, they'd whispered when they thought he couldn't hear. What's he expecting in this neighborhood? The unspoken question hanging in the air. What's he hiding? Tonight's routine had been no different than any other. Perimeter check at 10 p.m. Doors locked, windows secured, system armed. One final scan of camera feeds before bed. Something had felt off, though. The Hendersons' teenage son coming. Home unusually late. A car driving slowly past his house twice within an hour. Little things that most would dismiss, but that made Marcus' neck hairs stand at attention. His bedroom walls are sparse except for a single photograph. Marcus and his former partner Rodriguez on their last day before retirement. Arms around each other's shoulders, genuine smiles that reached their eyes. They'd survived together. 25 years of violence, corruption, close calls, and ultimately, respect. Tonight, like every night, Marcus had placed his phone on the nightstand, adjusted the volume to maximum, and laid his head on the pillow with one ear uncovered. Some habits die harder than others. The neighborhood had been experiencing small disturbances recently, garden ornaments disappearing, a bicycle taken from an open garage. Nothing serious enough to warrant official concern, but enough to fuel discussion at the community Facebook group Marcus secretly monitored. Tonight, though, felt different. Something in the air, perhaps. Or maybe just the instinct that had saved his life countless times before. Whatever it was, it kept Marcus from falling into deep sleep, his subconscious remaining vigilant, waiting for the alert that would come at precisely 2:17 a.m. The electronic chirp from his phone cuts through the darkness like a scalpel. Marcus is already reaching for it before his eyes fully open. The screen illuminates his face with ghostly blue light as the security app loads. The footage is crystal clear despite the darkness. Night vision technology outlines the woman. In eerie green contrast, Mid-20s, blonde hair falling messily around her face, wearing jeans and a light jacket inappropriate for the April chill. She moves frantically between windows and doors, testing each one, her movements growing increasingly desperate. Marcus sits up, fully alert now. He watches her body language with practiced precision. No visible weapons, no accomplices in frame. Not the practiced movements of a professional thief. More like fear. She's running from something. His thumb hovers over the emergency contact button. Standard protocol would be clear. Call it in, wait for patrol to respond. But protocol changes when you're a black ex-cop in a neighborhood where your presence already raises eyebrows. The woman begins pounding harder on his back door now, no longer attempting stealth. Whatever she's running from must be getting closer. Marcus closes his eyes for a fraction of a second, weighing options. Call 911, and he risks bringing armed officers into a situation they don't understand. Confront her himself, and he risks becoming tomorrow's headline: Black man confronts white woman at night. The irony isn't lost on him. After 25 years protecting people, he now has to calculate the risk of offering help. On screen, the woman turns suddenly, staring into the darkness beyond the camera's view. She's terrified now, backing against his door, no longer trying to break in but seeking shelter against it. Damn it, Marcus mutters, pulling on sweatpants and a Chicago PD hoodie. Deliberate choice of attire. His fingers find the cold metal of his personal firearm in the nightstand drawer. Legal, registered, potentially damning if used. He hesitates, then leaves the gun, grabbing instead his tactical flashlight, bright enough to disorient, heavy enough to defend himself. If absolutely necessary. His phone starts recording video as he slips it into his pocket. You're retired, he reminds himself aloud, descending the stairs with practiced silence. This isn't your job anymore. But the oath he took never specified an expiration. Date. At his back door now, Marcus can hear her panicked breathing, the scratch of fingernails against wood. He switches on exterior lights suddenly, a tactical advantage. Through the door's window, he sees her face clearly for the first time. Mascara streaked down pale cheeks, a fresh cut on her lower lip, the beginning of a bruise forming around her left eye. Signs he's seen hundreds of times before. Marcus reaches for the deadbolt, then freezes as headlights sweep across his front yard. A vehicle moving slowly, lights dimmed, crawling down his street like a predator. The decision crystallizes in an instant. 25 years of instinct overriding 5 years of cautious retirement. Marcus Thompson throws open his back door, startling the woman mid-knock, his expression professionally neutral despite the adrenaline flooding his system. What happens next will defy everything both of them believe about trust, judgment, and the masks people wear. Police, Marcus announces firmly, right hand raised to show it's empty, left holding the flashlight pointed downward. Non-threatening but ready. What's happening here, Mom? The woman's reaction isn't fear as he'd prepared for. Instead, her shoulders collapse with visible relief, eyes widening with desperate hope. Help me, she gasps between ragged breaths. Please, he's coming. He said he'd kill me if I... She glances frantically over her shoulder toward the street. Marcus keeps the doorframe between them, maintaining safe distance. Who's following you? Do they have a weapon? My date, she says, the words tumbling out. Bar on Wilson Street. He seemed nice until... She touches her bruised eye. Car. Followed me. I ran when he stopped for gas. Been running for miles. Nobody would open their door. Please. Her eyes, wide, dilated, terrified, scan his face, his hoodie. You're really police. Retired, Marcus clarifies automatically. Professional caution makes him hesitate. He's seen manipulation before, though something in her demeanor reads authentic. What's your name? Sarah Winters. The headlights reappear at the end of his street. The vehicle moves deliberately, Predatory, checking each house. Marcus makes the assessment in seconds. Genuine fear. Physical injuries consistent with her story. Immediate threat approaching. Delaying could endanger both of them. Inside, he decides, stepping back, maintaining space between them. Quickly. Stay in the entryway. Sarah rushes past him, collapsing against the wall as Marcus locks the door behind her, keeping his movements controlled despite the hammering in his chest. Through his front window, the vehicle creeps closer. Dark. Sedan license plate deliberately obscured with mud. Driver's face hidden in shadow. Something reflects moonlight through the driver's window. Metal. Possibly a weapon. At precisely this moment, halfway through what will become an extraordinary night, Marcus Thompson faces the pivotal choice that will define everything that follows: retreat to safety and call for backup, or step directly into a dangerous situation that isn't officially his responsibility. The retired officer watches the approaching threat with eyes that have seen the worst of humanity and survived. In the dim light of his entryway, he notices something he missed outside: a hospital ID badge clipped to Sarah's belt, partially hidden by her jacket. "Are you a nurse?" he asks quietly. "Social worker," she corrects, her voice steadying slightly. "Domestic violence unit." The irony isn't lost on either of them. The sedan slows to a crawl in front of Marcus' house, its engine a predatory growl in the quiet neighborhood. Sarah shrinks back from the windows, pressing herself against the wall. "He'll check every house," she whispers. "He said nobody would believe me over him." Marcus moves with practiced efficiency, minimizing his profile as he peers through blinds, assessing, why wouldn't they believe you? His father's the police chaplain in Riverside. Everyone knows them. The words come out bitter, resigned. "I didn't know who he was when we met." The revelation hits Marcus like physical force. Riverside Precinct. He knows the chaplain. Had attended his sermons during department memorials. A respected man who prayed over fallen officers. "How many houses did you try before mine?" Marcus asks, already suspecting the answer. 7. Sarah's voice cracks. "They saw me through peepholes, security cameras. One man even came to the window, looked right at me, then walked away. Just walked away." The vehicle stops directly in front of Marcus' house now. The driver's door opens. "My phone is recording," Marcus says calmly, pulling it from his pocket, pressing it into her hands. "Keep recording, whatever happens. Next, we'll have evidence." He moves to his kitchen, retrieves a cordless handset, punches in a number from memory, not 911. "Rodriguez," he says when a gruff voice answers. "It's Thompson. Yes, I know what time it is. I need a favor. Unmarked car, my address, domestic situation, possible weapons involvement, suspect connected to Riverside chaplain." A pause. "Yes, that chaplain, no lights, no sirens, come in quiet." The call ends. Marcus turns to find Sarah staring at him. Something new dawning in her expression, the first flicker of hope. "You actually believe me?" Before Marcus can answer, heavy knocking thunders against his front door. "Police! Open up!" A man's voice, authoritative, practiced. Sarah's face drains of color. "He's not police. He's lying." Marcus approaches the door with deliberate steps, positions himself strategically to the side of the entrance. "Identify yourself and your department," he calls through the door. "Officer James Wilson, Riverside PD. We've had reports of a disturbed woman in the area, potentially dangerous. Have you seen anyone suspicious?" Marcus, eyes meet. Sarah's across the room. The lie is smooth, professional, practiced. Marcus recognizes the technique. He'd used it himself, legitimately, countless times. "I need to see identification through the window," Marcus responds. Protocol perfect. Silence follows. Then, "Look, buddy, just open the door. We're trying to protect the neighborhood here." Marcus takes his credentials from Sarah's, Trembling hands, holds them up for her to see clearly. His retirement badge and ID. An unspoken question. She nods. I'm retired Chicago PD. Marcus projects through the door. 25 years service. Show me proper identification or leave my property. The silence stretches longer this time. Marcus can almost feel the calculations happening. On the other side of his door. She's lying to you, the voice finally calls, dropping all pretense of authority. She's my girlfriend. She's off her medication. Let me talk to her. Sir, you need to step away from my door. Police have been called. You don't understand who you're dealing with, old man. The voice turns vicious. My father will... Your father, Marcus interrupts, voice cutting like steel, would be ashamed to see his son impersonating an officer. For the first time that night, Marcus opens the front door, but only a crack, his body blocking entry, phone visibly recording. I protected people from men like you for 25 years, he says quietly. That duty didn't end when I turned in my badge. In the far distance, silent and swift, headlights approach from the opposite direction. The unmarked police cruiser approaches without sirens, tactical and deliberate. Even in retirement, Rodriguez remembers his training. It parks at an angle, blocking the sedan's potential escape. The man at Marcus' door, handsome, early 30s, wearing an expensive coat with a clerical collar partially visible underneath, freezes as he processes what's happening. Recognition dawns in his eyes as Rodriguez emerges from the vehicle. Lieutenant Rodriguez, he says, voice shifting to respectful deference. There's been a misunderstanding. I'm Samuel Ellison, Pastor Ellison's son. Rodriguez approaches cautiously, hand resting near his holster. I know who you... Sam. Want to explain why you're banging on my former partner's door at 3 a.m? Or why you were impersonating an officer? Samuel's expression cycles through shock, calculation, and finally a practiced contrition. My girlfriend, she's having an episode. She's been struggling with substance abuse. I'm just trying to get her help. Marcus feels Sarah trembling beside him but notices something else. Her phone is still recording, angled perfectly to capture every word. Rodriguez looks past Samuel to the sedan. Anyone else in the vehicle? No, sir, just me. Mind if we take a look? The pastor's son hesitates just a fraction too long. Of course not. While Rodriguez escorts Samuel to the car, Marcus turns to Sarah. You're doing great, he says quietly. You keep the camera steady. The neighborhood is awakening now, lights flickering on in houses that had earlier remained dark to her desperate knocking. Curious faces peering through blinds, the same doors that had stayed firmly shut against. A woman in distress now crack open to observe the drama. Rodriguez's voice rises suddenly. Hands where I can see them, now. Then into his radio. Need backup at 1478 Oak Ridge Lane. Weapons visible in vehicle. The resulting commotion draws neighbors onto porches and driveways, witnessing Samuel Ellison, the chaplain's son, youth minister, pillar of the community, being handcuffed and secured in the back of Rodriguez's cruiser. You can stop recording, Marcus tells Sarah gently. She lowers the phone, hands still shaking. They wouldn't have believed me without this. I know, Marcus says simply. He's seen it too many times before. As patrol cars arrive, with flashing lights, a figure approaches from 3 houses down, Walter Hendricks, president of the Homeowners Association, still tying his bathrobe. What's happening, Thompson? He demands. Why are they arresting Pastor Ellison's boy? Marcus meets his neighbor's eyes steadily. You saw this woman tonight, didn't you, Walter? She knocked on your door. Hendricks falters, glancing uncomfortably at Sarah's bruised face. I didn't know what was happening. You can't be too careful these days. No, Marcus agrees. You can't. As if on cue, Rodriguez approaches with an evidence bag containing a clerical collar, a fake police badge, and a hunting knife. Found these in his car, Rodriguez says, along with these. He holds up a small bag of zip ties. Want to guess what these were for? The growing crowd of neighbors falls silent. Sarah Winters, Rodriguez continues, reading from her ID. Says here you're a social worker with the Domestic Violence Intervention Program. She nods, finding her voice. 3 years now. And you've helped how many women escape situations like this? 78 cases last year alone, she answers. The awful irony settles over the gathered neighborhood. The woman they'd ignored, the desperate knocking they'd pretended not to hear, had been a professional dedicated to helping others escape exactly the danger she'd found herself in. And the only person who'd helped her? The neighbor they'd kept at arm's length for 5 years. Rodriguez turns to the assembled crowd, his voice carrying in the night air. Sometimes the person you fear the most is the very one you should have trusted all along. Dawn breaks over Oak Ridge Lane, painting the sky in watercolor hues of pink and gold. The police cars have gone, taking Samuel Ellison and his carefully constructed facade of respectability with them. Only Rodriguez remains, sharing a cup of coffee with Marcus and Sarah on the front porch, the first time Marcus has used it for anything resembling socializing since moving in. The chaplain's already at the station, Rodriguez says, checking his phone. Man's beside himself. Keeps saying there must be some mistake. Sarah cradles her mug between bandaged hands, minor cuts from her desperate flight through neighborhood backyards. There's always a mistake, always a misunderstanding, until there isn't. The three fall silent, watching as neighbors emerge for their morning routines. The atmosphere has changed. Neighbor after neighbor approaches Marcus. Previously, avoided property line, some bearing awkward offerings, a homemade bread, a casserole, a potted plant. Mrs. Abernathy from across the street is the first to speak directly. And we didn't know, she says, voice thick with unacknowledged shame. We thought. I know what you thought, Marcus interrupts, not unkindly. It's what many people think when they see me. We should have opened our doors, Mr. Chen from 2 houses down adds. And my wife wanted to, but He doesn't finish the sentence. Sarah places her mug down carefully. Fear makes us do terrible things, she says with professional composure that barely masks her personal trauma. Or not do necessary things. Rodriguez finishes his coffee, standing to leave. The DA will want your statements later today, both of you. He clasps Marcus' shoulder with genuine affection. Thanks for the call, partner. Some instincts never fade, do they? After Rodriguez departs, Sarah turns to Marcus. How did you know to believe me? The others didn't. Marcus considers this, looking out over the neighborhood now bustling with activity. Neighbors talking to each other, glancing toward his porch, processing their collective failure. 25 years wearing a badge teaches you to read people, he begins. But being black in America teaches you how it feels when others read you wrong. He meets her eyes directly. I know what it's like when no one opens their door. Sarah nods, understanding passing between them. What now? Marcus watches as the neighbors continue their uncomfortable self-reflection. But now we heal, you from last night, them from realizing what they almost allowed to happen. Me from what? From believing I had to retire from protecting people just because I turned in my badge. 2 weeks later, the Neighborhood Watch program holds its first meeting. The location, Marcus Thompson's front porch, now expanded to accommodate 20 folding chairs. The leader, a retired black police officer who no longer sits alone in a house fortified against the community around him. And among the founding
members, Sarah Winters, specialist in community intervention strategies, who begins each session with a simple but profound reminder. Safety isn't just about locks and cameras.
It's about opening doors when they need to be opened. This story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about who we trust, who we fear, and why. Every day, in neighborhoods across America, people make split-second judgments based on appearances rather than actions. Think about it. How many doors have you left unopened? How many calls for help have gone unanswered because the person in need didn't look the way you expected them to? Many of you have shared similar experiences in the comments, moments where trust overcame prejudice and lives were changed. Your stories matter, and they're helping others recognize their own biases. Remember Marcus' words. Safety isn't about building higher walls. It's about knowing which doors to open. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that message today.